Hello everybody, and how are we all doing there? And welcome back to the next video in this vlog series. So over the next few weeks we're going to sort of be focusing our content on types of form. So last week we had poetry, and this week we're going to focus in particular on prose. So the main types of prose we have, which are flash fiction, so that's really short, so usually sort of 50 to 500 words. We've then got the short story, which can be anywhere from sort of 500 to 5,000 generally. They can be a bit longer than that, you can go up to sort of 10 to 15,000 for short stories. Then you've got the novella, which is roughly around 30,000 words. And then you've got the novel, which sort of on average would be about 80,000, but can be anywhere between 50 to sort of 200,000, depending on what sort of genre you're working and what type of story you're exploring. So I'm just going to focus a bit today on the short story, guys. So just focusing on a few key points to focus on when you are writing or coming up with your ideas for your short stories. So let's get to it. So the main thing to remember of a short story is you've got a very limited short space of time. So you kind of have one main idea, or so either a particular theme for your story or a particular feeling you want to create for your reader. And it's really important to have that idea in your head throughout, because if you're, say, just doing 2,000 words, you want to make sort of every little sort of line of dialogue, every bit of description link into that idea, that feeling or theme for the reader, because you've got very limited space. So when you start off with your story, a good idea is to start a scene straight in the action. So rather than, say, have a novel where you might have a few pages of exposition, sort of, especially if it's fantasy, you might have a really long sort of exposition at the opening, setting up and building that world for the reader. With the short story, a good idea is to start straight into the action. So if that's something you've not done before or unsure of, then you can always start it beforehand, so you can have it build up. So do it as you normally would if you're writing a longer piece. So describe the setting, the area, a bit about the character, and then once you've done that, and then you've done the scene afterwards, usually with an interaction between two main characters, some conflict happening, you could then cut that beginning bit out and then just have it start right on there. It's a really great technique to do, because it immediately grabs the reader's attention, because they're already sort of wondering what's going on, what's going to happen next, and it also just saves you that sort of time of having to build up that world. So the next bit we're going to move on to is characters. So a couple of key bits here you want to focus on is try to limit the number of your characters. So as a good base rule of thumb for a short story, for say 2,000 words, you're probably going to want maybe 2 to 3 characters in there. You're going to want one main protagonist and probably a couple of other key characters. There can be some smaller interactions with people as well, but you're really going to try and the more you limit the characters in there, the more you're going to be able to carry that single theme and idea. If you start introducing several characters, that's when it's going to become slightly confusing for the audience, and that sort of initial theme and idea that you wanted to carry through, it's going to become that much trickier for you. So as a good rule of thumb, try and limit it to 2 to 3 characters, and also have a think about point of view. So are you going to want to tell this from a first person perspective? So is your protagonist going to be the one guiding the story, or is there going to be a third person objective narrator? Now, sort of the benefits of them both are, so first person really draws you into that character's mind, so that's something that you really want to choose if you really want the audience to sort of experience what the characters are experiencing. So if this sort of characters going through a really sort of tough and high emotionally charged situation, maybe you want to set that in the first person and really draw them into that. If you're maybe trying to carry a message, sort of tell a certain idea to the reader, you may want to take a third person stance, so that it gives it a more objective view, so it kind of leaves it for the reader to decide. So have a quick think about which one is going to be suited to your character and your story. So guys, the final bit I want to have a quick look at is experimentation. So when you are crafting your short stories, do not be afraid to sort of experiment. So you might, for example, be a good idea to try and, if you've not done before, change of different point of views. So you could have a 3,000 word short story and have 1,000 words telling that story from the point of view of the 3 different characters in the story. That is sort of a really fun one to try, and because it's sort of a lot shorter time, it takes the sort of the pressures away from sort of, if you're going to write an 80,000 word novel and you're going to tell this from 3 different point of views, you don't want to get 40,000 words in and realise it's not working, and then you're going to have to change the perspective of it. That may happen to some people anyway. But you can really sort of play about it and have some fun with it. So maybe try and do a couple of different points of views. Maybe try switching from first to third person. You know, a short story collection I've read recently called Still Aside, where it's a collection of short stories, but they all bind together, and it switches between first and third person throughout. So that may be something that you maybe want to try. So maybe you want to have an objective stance on something and take a sort of a more standing back approach to the story, but then maybe you want to move into the first person and really get inside a character's head to explore a certain emotion for the reader. So 3 main bits from this week, guys, are so get that central idea, feeling or theme that you want for the reader. That is really, really important to have that concrete in your head sort of running throughout. Try and limit the number of characters you have and choose what sort of point of view you want for those characters, whether it's going to be first or third person, or it can even be second person as well. That is often a lot less used, but as we said at the end about Experimentation, this short story, it's a great idea to sort of have a look at that. And then experiment. So just don't be afraid to try out different things, you know. Don't be afraid to sort of chop and change your order and the narrative. So you might have it running in a linear order. Don't be afraid to sort of start it halfway through. Don't be afraid to leave it open-ended. And leaving it sort of lingering for the reader. You know, really have some fun with those short stories. If you've got anything that you want to share, guys, please feel free to put that in the comments below. Have a great week, guys. Take care. See you all. Bye.